Entitlement or fair reimbursement? Tonight, we have new insight on Mike Duffy's attitudes as a senator years before the scandal concerning his housing expenses and double billing erupted. CBC News obtained emails between Mike Duffy and a Conservative insider. Duffy says he was asked what he wanted or needed. He writes about a cabinet post in order to get some pretty nice perks. Duffy goes on to write about his own company and how the Conservatives could hire it so he could in turn hire more staff. And that's not all, the email said. We asked Laurie Graham to break it down for us. Laurie.
Wendy, as if things aren't bad enough for Mike Duffy, now proof of his close ties to the Conservative Party. At the time Mike Duffy was appointed to the Senate in 2008, he said he wanted to make a difference.
Well, the Prime Minister called me and I said, you know, I'm not really very much of a partisan.
But 7 months later, Duffy was consulting with the Conservatives about an expanded role in the party. In an email obtained by CBC News, Duffy asks a Conservative insider, "What do I demand?" Duffy was hours away from meeting with Conservative Senator Irving Gerstein, the head of the Conservative Fund, a lucrative party bank account worth tens of millions of dollars. "I suggested they make me a minister without a portfolio," Duffy wrote, "so I get a staff, car, and more resources."
This mess just continues to get messier.
There's more. Duffy asked the insider if the Conservative Fund should hire my private company, and I used that cash to hire additional staff.
Their sense of entitlement, their sense of I want, it was gimme, gimme, gimme.
Duffy clearly felt close enough to the Prime Minister, asking in that July email if he should request a one-on-one with Stephen.
Did Senator Duffy seek
Prime Minister Stephen Harper says no such discussion with Duffy ever took place. But Harper continues to have to talk about Duffy, answering questions again today about that $90,000 deal involving his former chief of staff.
Mr. Wright decided to use his own personal money to assist Mr. Duffy, and had I known about it before it happened, I would have said not to do it.
And that's exactly what the Conservative insider said in response to Duffy's question about the Conservative Fund hiring his company. "Keep it out of your company and office budget, or it will hurt you down the road." Now, 4 years down the road, Duffy is out of the Conservative caucus, accused of filing inappropriate expense claims, and faces an RCMP probe. Mike Duffy was heralded as the Conservative senator who could attract a crowd. Now it seems, Wendy, Conservatives, including the one who gave us this email, are trying to keep their distance.
Thanks so much, Laurie. Laurie Graham tonight. Let's bring in Chris Hall now. So, Chris, let's talk big picture for a second. What did we learn here?
A couple of things that we should remember out of this. First is that Mike Duffy did have an enormous value to the Conservative Party as a draw during election campaigns and as a fundraiser. He was so highly thought of, as we saw in the piece there, that Mike Duffy hosted and served as MC to Stephen Harper in Cambridge, Ontario, when he took his economic action plan on the road in 2009. The other thing is that Senator Irving Gerstein, who heads the Conservative Fund, appears to be willing to try and use those funds to help Mike Duffy compensate for the expenses he'll incur doing this role. So it raises the question here, why then did Nigel Wright, 4 years later, decide that he had to pay out of his own pocket for expenses the Conservative Fund appeared willing to pay?
So this was all in preparation for a meeting with Irving Gerstein. How big a player is he?
He's hugely important. Along with the late Senator Doug Findlay, they are the ones who really crafted the modern Conservative Party. Gerstein's responsible for creating the Conservative Fund, ironically set up with Nigel Wright in 2004. He's been able to successfully target messages to specific voters to try and increase the money. And as a fundraiser, they are without peer here in Canada. In the last quarter alone, the last 3 months, which filed in March 2013, they raised $4.5 million. So Irving Gerstein knows how to raise money.
Thanks so much, Chris. Not the end of this story.
No.
Chris Hall in Ottawa tonight.